Welcome to the Forged by Trust podcast. I'm your host, Robin Dreeke, former United States Marine, spy recruiter, best-selling author, and trust expert. Don't forget to check out my free Keys to Communication course. Each of us craves psychological comfort, healthy relationships, and being valued by others. But most of us struggle with the communication skills we need to achieve our goals. Therefore, I created this 40-minute free course to provide you the 4 pillars of great communication you need to start your journey to forging trust for every aspect of your life, both personal and professional. Check out the link in the show notes or go to my website today, www.peopleformula.com, and enroll. Coming up next on the Forged by Trust podcast.
And I had to learn how to find my own resilience within me. I think finding my core values was the best part of my life so far in finding who I really am. My core values, which are love, freedom, perseverance, trust, and truth. So breath is an acronym that stands for B is for begin where you are. R is reclaim your power. E is excavate your core values. A is allow. T is through, and H is heal, or healing.
Welcome to the show. I'm Robin Dreeke, and on the Forged by Trust podcast, we decode the interpersonal communication skills of the world's most acclaimed forgers of trust. We unlock the skills and techniques from spies, spy recruiters, master interrogators, globally recognized behavioral experts, C-suite executives, entrepreneurs, acclaimed authors, and thought leaders. Each episode provides specific actions that you can immediately apply to any aspect of your personal or professional life. Today's episode, The Breath Framework, is with a great friend and inspirational coach, mentor, and guide in life, the wonderful Annie Leib. Annie is the founder and CEO of Leib LLC and Breath Framework. She's a certified professional executive coach, author, and named Top Woman Entrepreneur to Watch in 2022, as well as a global Goodwill Ambassador. Working for a major pharmaceutical company, Annie discovered she was being treated as a statistic and not as a whole person. After leaving a decade-long career, she received her executive MBA and crafted a unique modality called the Breath Framework, which helps guide blocked professionals to find fulfillment and unlock their true, authentic selves. Annie has worked with Fortune 500 companies, including a multi-billion-dollar corporation, to create better leaders who have a direct impact on staff loyalty, client retention, and an increased bottom line. Her genuine, unconventional, and unorthodox style has created major transformational shifts in the companies and leaders within them. Because when you take care of your people will take care of your business. During the episode today, we chat about the Breath Framework, Annie's core values, learn to forgive yourself to love others, how to reframe your brain, and so much more.
Hi, Robin.
Hey, Annie, how are you?
Life is good.
Well, with that, we'll just kick it right off with,
Hi.
Hey, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here, Annie. You have Thank you. It's my pleasure. You have such an amazing background, because what was really struck me was the title of what you do and the show, and that's Breathe. And so before we even get into the elements of what that is, where did it come from? Like, how did you arrive at this place in life where you are today? Because I think it gives everyone a good framing and context with the great skills you're going to impart on everyone today.
So that's a broad question. Okay. So
I know, that's why I pick your place you like to start.
Let me think of how I want to answer. Okay. So the Breath Framework is a modality that I created in 2020 for coaching, but it started really in 2014. When I was at a very low point in my life. I was getting divorced. I was signing my divorce papers, and I looked over at the wall and I saw a Ralph Waldo Emerson poem on the wall, and it said something about breathing. And I thought, breath. You can take everything from me, but you can't take my breath. That's mine. So I could be stripped of literally everything, but you can't take that from me. So I went and got it tattooed on my body, the word breath in my handwriting. Now, Jewish girls from Philadelphia that are scared of their father do not get tattoos, but I did it anyway. And I got it on my hip where you can't really see it. And I just wanted it for me. And it reminded me of getting through one of my hardest times. Fast forward, I go back to school to get my executive MBA. I'm creating this coaching firm right as COVID hits. And I think I need to teach what I've learned in my life to people. And how can I do that other than to name it breath, framework and use that as an acronym. So breath is an acronym that stands for B is for begin where you are. R is reclaim your power. E is excavate your core values. A is allow. T is through, and H is heal, for healing. So I take people on this curriculum that I went through in my own personal life, from my begin all the way to my heal, to help people find their most authentic selves, which is where you're seeing me right now as my best, most authentic self.
Because it's today, and today is a great day because
Yes, it is.
today. You said a few things in there I'd love to explore a little bit. And you said, a little Jewish girl from Philadelphia who's afraid of her father.
If he's watching this, I'm not scared of you.
But at that age, 14 years ago, you obviously had some sort of resilience and an ability to move forward. Where'd that come from?
So there were a lot of trials and tribulations. I mean, I was, a kid that came from divorce from a very young age. My parents did not get along, and it was a tumultuous situation for a while. And I kind of had to fend for myself. I do have two sisters, but they're not from the same marriage. So it was sort of just me against the world for a while. And I learned there was some bullying in school. The girls were not nice. And I had to learn how to find my own resilience within me. And I think with my own resilience, Robin, now that I think about it as I'm just talking to you, I think finding my core values was the best part of my life so far in finding who I really am. So finding my truest, most authentic self.
What were your core values back then? Do you know?
So I think they've always been the same. I think they've always they've grown and I've evolved, but I think my core values, which are love, freedom, perseverance, trust, and truth. And I think they've always been embedded in those. I've always been sort of embedded in those words, but I didn't know it. So as I learned through life and the trials and tribulations of life, whether it be, just failures and disappointments or successes, a divorce, having children teach you a lot. I don't think there's better teachers in the world. And just really discovering those 5 values and how they make me really helped me to understand what resilience means. And that's part of my program, figuring out core values and excavating them. And
you really rattled those off quickly too. You are really sounding those. I love the first 2, love and freedom. You're experiencing a lot of great drama and great pain. So you start out with love. How'd you come up with that one back then when you might not have been seeing it all that often?
So as I've evolved, so has my fearlessness. So that is also tattooed on me, right there.
Yeah, look at that. Is that your writing?
This is not, no, that's not my writing, but breath is in my writing on my hip.
Right.
But so I did sort of get past that whole fear of showing myself, right? So love is ingrained in me and my soul, so much so that I do everything I do based on love. I just think it is everything that I am and everything I try to be every single day. So it's everything to me. It's your relationships, it's what you do and your passion for your work and your drive and your life. And, it's woven throughout the fabric of my being. So, I believe very strongly in unconditional love, which I haven't always received. Right. But I've learned to understand what it means to love unconditionally and to be loved unconditionally. And that has been one of the greatest lessons of my life. So I love that way. And I try to look at every situation and circumstance in my life through the lens of love, if that makes sense.
How did you learn to love unconditionally when it wasn't returned?
Because it's a great question. You've done this before.
I love listening to you. I mean, you're saying some really powerful things. And the hardest thing we have and you said love unconditionally. How do you do that when you face, whether it's someone exercising road rage and cutting in front of you on a street,
right,
or someone that's not reciprocating this unconditional love you're giving back? How do you do that? How did you learn that? Or did you learn it from someone?
I think there's 2 parts. I think number 1 starts with self-love. So when you can truly love yourself, you can give it out to others, right?
I'm going to go with that one. How'd you learn that?
How'd you learn that? With a lot of not self-love. That's how I learned that. I learned that
Dichotomy. We can only experience life and truly understand it if we have a yin and a yang, that dichotomy.
Exactly. And Robin, I lived my life not loving myself. I lived so much of my life not loving myself, and it wasn't working for me. It wasn't getting me where I wanted to go. It wasn't helping me to heal people, which is what my mission is on this earth, to help heal and teach people who their true selves are and show them and guide them. Without self-love, I couldn't do any of the things that I do. So I had to start there. The second part is someone something very important to me, taught me that everyone is actually made of love. So even that person with terrible road rage, and even that person that was mean to you in high school, and even that person that screws you over in business, they are coming from their own place. Doesn't necessarily mean that they are doing good things and making good decisions, but they in their own bodies are made of love.
Yes.
When you can see the world like that, everything changes.
Yep. So who taught you that? Who is that person?
I'm not going to say the person's name, but both a mentor and someone very close to me that it wasn't that long ago.
Oh. Good.
No, it wasn't that long ago. A couple years ago, I would say. And it's not something that somebody they can say it over and over, but you have to really experience it in your life to really feel it.
No doubt.
And so I heard these things and I would kind of roll my eyes like, yeah. But that guy's a jerk. Or like, forgiveness is a big piece of self-love too. Like you have to forgive yourself. You have to learn how to forgive others and forgive yourself in order to get to this place of love. So that's another learning of mine. And it's very hard to forgive people that have hurt you, but it really is freeing to do so. When you can find that place of forgiveness and you find your freedom.
No doubt. And you have this tremendous energy that just emanates from you. I imagine, again, I'm just kind of guessing at this, and that a lot of your energy comes from that love, because love, especially you said it a few minutes ago, is about your purpose on this planet is to be of service. And service is so invigorating. It brings such inner calm and joy and peace. And in order to have that, you have to have that unconditional love. It's a fascinating cycle. Were you always this energetic, or did you start really getting this energy when you actually found that unconditional love, you think?
It's a great question too. I always had a lot of energy. I've always been really outgoing. It's funny. I was just having this conversation with somebody else. I've always been really outgoing. People would maybe that don't know me really well would call me like really bold, like loud, in your face. But when it comes down to it, like my love is really quiet and inside me. Like it sits right here on my chest and in my heart. And I actually have some timidness to me, believe it or not. This was an interesting discovery I had recently, that there are ways about me that are quite timid. So I'm very outgoing and extroverted, but there's a very accommodating and loving and giving soul inside me that is not so bold.
So what causes you to be timid in those moments?
I think that it maybe comes from childhood and possibly trying to keep harmony. I like harmony. It's very important to me to keep things nice. It's not always beneficial, but it's very important for me to keep things kind of calm and nice. I like when there's not a lot of conflict. I mean, I understand like approaching conflict and talking about it, but I like to get through it and make things nice. And, that's my sort of more timid, introverted side. So I think there's both sides to me. My personality is quite energetic though. So.
And the other thing you said at the very beginning, the second one, was freedom. Why freedom? Why freedom is number two? And not necessarily that you ranked them, but you said them in that order. And those are
that's my order. That's my order. That's how it flows off my tongue. So freedom to me, this is a funny story. When I was excavating my core values,
I love really that. Excavating my core values. That was really good.
Like it's better than digging, right? Like excavating is like really
the process.
It's the process. So when I was doing that, I looked at a list of core values. This was years ago online. And I remember seeing freedom, Robin, and I laughed. I was like, who would ever pick that as one of their core values? Like, what do you mean not being in jail? Like, of course you appreciate freedom and it made no sense to me. And the more I dug in, the more I learned about myself, the more I realized that freedom was such an overarching core value of mine, so important to me, that to be free to be me, to be authentically me and show up as me was one of the most important things that made me Annie. So it was something that I originally just sort of like, giggled at. And then as I dug deeper and realized who I really am and what matters to me and what makes me me, freedom is such a huge part of that for me.
So in order to crave something so much and make it so part of who you are, I imagine there was a time when you didn't feel so free to be who you are. And when was that?
Oh, for sure. Most of my life, I did not feel free to be who I am. This is more of a recent, in the last 8 years, sort of this coming back to life, clawing my way back from the depths since my divorce was a way for me to kind of find my freedom. And with freedom, and this is what I teach my clients, with freedom, there's real authenticity. There's real vulnerability. There's real resilience. There's adaptability. There's all these things that you find within freedom. That's why I call it an overarching core value.
Right.
Because it really touches on, it's like woven into me. It touches on, like love, it touches on all the other ones. The trust, the perseverance, the truth, the love, it's all woven into by freedom.
You've said that word a few times that I really want to have you define it for everyone, because I think people hear the word, they say the word, and they just brush through it. Authenticity.
How did I know you were going to say that?
Yeah. So tell me what that means to you.
I find that this word is overused. I find that it's become sort of jargon that people use, like the way you sort of intimated a little bit, but don't really understand.
But you clearly have something more to it. That's why I wanted to hear it.
Yeah, that's a great point. So authenticity to me is like, there's nothing that I feel more strongly about, I don't think, than being true and genuine and real. And that's what I base my practice on. So when someone comes to me, there's no compliment I've received more in my life. There's no accolade that I've received more than you're really real. Like you show up as you. You are so genuine and I can feel your realness. That's authenticity to me. Like, can you show up and be really, truly who you are? Like I'm speaking to you. I don't have notes. This is all from my brain. This is from my heart and soul. Like I don't know. And you ask such good questions, but like, I'm not trying to get in a line. I'm not trying to plug marketing. That's not who I am. Like I could hire a marketing team, which I have, which we have all these things going on, but like, I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and it's going to be from my heart and soul. It's never going to be a line that I'm trying to plug or, a message that I need people to hear. Like, this is just from me. This is from my most authentic place. So hopefully that answers that question.
How do you teach that?
Well,
does that get into the framework?
Yeah. I mean, it starts.
There's the transition.
There you go. It starts by figuring out where you are. So B is for begin, right? So we have to figure out where somebody really is. A lot of people come to me and they don't really realize exactly where they're beginning. So uncovering that just by talking in my intuition and just by my life experience, I'm able to kind of pinpoint in a couple sessions where somebody's really starting. That's their begin. Then when they start to reclaim their power and excavate their core values, they can find their most authentic self. Now, they might not always be able to become their most authentic self right away. That takes more time. But as we discover and explore, and like I said, excavate, figure out who this person is, just like I did in my own life, we can find their own authenticity. But until they know who they are and what their purpose and mission is here, I don't believe that authenticity is that easy to find.
What are some of the biggest challenges you've faced with some of your clients in finding that beginning point?
It's lack of willingness, wanting to get help, knowing they need guidance, but not really having the openness and willingness to do the work.
How do you get through that?
You trust.
Ooh, how do you do that?
I have to develop a safe, trusting place for them to explore their vulnerability.
Yeah.
There is so much in creating a warmth and a safe space for somebody that I've had people say to me, I've gone to therapy for 10 years and I'm not not in any way, shape or form am I saying that I compare myself to therapy or anything like that. I just want to disclaimer there for a second. But I will tell you that numerous people have said to me, I've gone to therapy for 10 years and I never uncovered this. Well, how'd that happen? And I just thought, maybe you haven't been talking about the right stuff. Maybe there hasn't been a safe space created for you. So when I quickly create that safe space, then they can be free to be who they really are and they feel safe with me.
Do you have any clue about, imagine you do, but I don't want to presume you do, about how you are able to assess what they need to feel safe in those moments?
This might sound cheesy, but I think it is very intuition based. I think that, and asking the right questions, which I know you're familiar with, like figuring out what do I need to ask to find the right answers here to create that space. So it's my own feeling and intuition, my read on the person, and then asking the right questions.
I find it's an interesting blend that you have, which is a great dichotomy, because as I'm seeing it, as you're describing it, it sounds like in order to create that safe place for people to make them feel safe, you have to have an immense amount of empathy and being able to read it and see life through their perspective and communicate that. And at the same time, which requires a quiet soul, but at the same time, you have this exuberant energy. So you're really able to balance these two dynamics really exceptionally well to have the initiative to go forth and press them to do these things. At the same time, you have the quietness of soul to make them feel safe and communicate in a way that they need to be communicated with. Is that kind of what you think you're doing?
Thank you. I think there's one word that we didn't say, which is vulnerability.
Oh, it's a beautiful word, by the way.
I agree.
A lot of trust.
I think when I bring my own personal vulnerability, that allows people to get their backs down and bring theirs. So I try to create a space that brings my authentic self, my vulnerable self, so that I show them me. Here I am. I'm going to tell you, I'm an open book. I'm going to tell you what I've been through. I'm going to tell you how I can relate to some of the things that you're saying. And then I think that I think that allows for the space of their own freedom, their own vulnerability, their own authenticity to come out. But thank you for the compliment.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's another fascinating challenge that people have that you're doing really well. In order for people to feel safe, you're helping them overcome the most challenging thing I think we all have as human beings is we all feel shame. And people start feeling safe when they feel they can open up about their shame. And it sounds like that you share your vulnerability with the things you've done in your life that makes us say, hey, we're in this together. You're not alone. How did you have the courage to overcome that and share that?
You know, this business of what I do is so much of my world and my life and my passion and my mission here that if I don't share myself and what I've been through, how am I supposed to ask people to share themselves? Like, it's a partnership, right? This road that we're traveling together, this journey is like, I want to link arms with them. I don't want to push them. I don't want to pull them. I want to link arms and walk through this journey down this path together. So that's the only way I knew how to do that. I just figured if I show myself, eventually they're going to start to trust that I'm showing myself to them, and then they'll start to trust themselves, because really what it's about is their own self-trust. So my healing journey has been a long one, but it's one that I go on every day with each client because I'm healing with them as much as I am healing them.
Yeah, it's a common trend I see with the most amazing people in life is no one just arrives. That's why I wanted to go on this journey with you as well. So thank you for sharing. No one just arrives being these amazing coaches, these amazing thought leaders and leaders of any industry, just like this, by snapping their finger. Oh, look, I was born this way. No, it was a pretty intensive journey to get there. And usually the skills that we're imparting to others are the ones that we were challenged with most of our lives, that we just learned to overcome and master when we had that positive outlook on life. So that's beginning. So what's the next part of the framework of breath?
So B is for begin, and then we get into reclaim your power.
How do we do that?
So this digs deep into how you're giving your power away. Where are the places in life where you're giving away your power and saying,
and I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No.
Define power first, so we can have a framework for that. You say giving your power away. What is power that you're giving away?
The power that you're giving is to be the true, authentic you.
Okay.
That's what I think power is. So there are ways in which every day, all of us go through life and we just hand it out. We give it away. We don't realize we're doing it, but we don't stand up for ourselves. We don't speak our minds. We don't say when we say something when it needs to be said. We don't allow ourselves to be vulnerable. We don't allow ourselves to be true and authentic because we're scared or because we have shame. All of those things are attached, right? So we give those, that's part of my process, is to kind of uncover the ways in which we give away our power.
How do we balance, as such a great point you've made there about what power is, how do we balance things like not being over accommodating as well as being polite?
That's a great question. I think it's practice and sort of learning how to navigate other people and read other people. It's emotional empathy and emotional quotient.
Right.
And where we rank in that space. You know, I'm always polite because I try to come from love. So I always try to.
There you go. Make sure love's thrown in it when your
love is thrown in there, right? But that doesn't mean getting walked on.
Right.
You can kindly, professionally, authentically say your needs. This is something that I've learned over my journey, is you can say what your needs are, and that's not disrespectful. That's not impolite. Some people are raised, and I think, that saying what you need is not okay. That makes people uncomfortable. That's wrong. You don't get to say what you need. You don't count in that way. And that hurt me for a long time until I learned I needed to step up and say what I needed. And that's okay. Even if somebody doesn't like it, it doesn't mean you're wrong. And you can have conflict with people and still get over it. Like, I learned a lot growing up with like my family and like instances in my life where we get in a fight and that relationship is severed. That's done. Like, that's a lot of what I was taught and what I saw. And that's just so not how life should be. You know, we should be able to have an argument or a disagreement and get through that together. Conflict is actually a positive thing. I don't like it. But it can be a positive thing to grow your relationship and become more vulnerable and closer with somebody. So I've learned that in this journey. But I forget what we were originally. I lost my train of thought. Like, what was I saying?
I'm sorry. Step 2.
Step 2, reclaiming your power. Right. Sorry.
And all I had you do is define what power was, and I took you down a rabbit hole. I apologize.
That's okay. No worries. No worries. No, that was my fault. I'm like, what was the question? Yeah. So reclaiming your power has a lot to do with reclaiming yourself.
Right.
Instead of constantly giving that away. So the next step is excavating your core values, which is really digging. I have a fulfillment exercise I do. I have a couple of exercises I do with my clients where we really dig into where their peace is, or isn't, I should say. So we find out where their fulfillment is, what in their like momentous events in their lives, what are the themes that are attached to them, both good and bad. And that's how I look into what their true core values are. And some of these people most of my people that I talk to at first have no idea what their core values are. They're like, yeah, I've heard of those, but like, you know, empathy, I don't know. That's like really like people from all walks of life have said to me, I have no idea. I never even thought about what that means. You know, even people that
is.
Because I think it's another phrase maybe that's thrown around a little bit, both with businesses and personally, where people throw around my core values, but did I ever really dig into what they are? You know, did I ever really do the work to find out who I really am and what values my life is based on? That's hard work.
Is that similar to what Simon Sinek talks about as he goes, you start with your why? Are those core values the same as why, or is it a little bit different? Do you know?
Well, my definition of core values has to do with your why, your purpose, your mission, and what makes you you. What makes you, again, I'm going to go back to that word, what makes you authentically you. And I believe that, like you asked me, like, what's become your core values? Like, I believe my values were really always mine.
Right.
I've just learned what they are and who I am as I've aged and experienced life. So after excavating is allow. Allow is a little sidebar to allow, not control. So there's so many things in our lives, Robin, that we try to control, that if we just relinquish control, things will flow a lot better. We try to control every aspect. If I just make this person act like this, if I just do this and put this in place, I'll get this. And it makes us like this all the time with life and the people around us. We try to control the people. We try to control ourselves. We try to control so much. Just relax, relinquish, let go.
How do you get someone to stop trying to control everything, which is because, as you just said, 99% of everything around us is out of our control. The only thing we can control is our perception of how we deal with it and our actions.
Well, I think when you look at the overwhelming, Robin, how do I make you a less controlling person? Like, that's too overwhelming.
Right.
I think we have to take baby steps. Let's find your begin, right? So go back to my framework. Let's find your begin. Let's start to reclaim your power. Let's find out who you are, your mission, your purpose with your core values. And then we can I can sort of piece together what we need to start to allow instead of control. Like, I can pick out specific things in your life where I go, Robin, let's take that as an example. Next time, or this week until you see me again, try this. And we can try different ways to take baby steps. And then you'll start being rewarded by these baby steps and you'll start seeing progress. Then you'll want to control things a little bit less in general.
Have you seen any kind of themes of the most challenging things people have to let go of when it comes to control by any chance?
Themes.
Like, do you have one or two things that kind of pop up pretty routinely that you're used to dealing with when it comes to control?
People want to control how they feel a lot. Oh. They want to not feel. Why do I feel sad about that? Why do I feel emotional about that? Why am I angry about that? It's like, because you are.
Kind of riffing off that one. You're a very positive person. You very not seeing things as going wrong or sideways. They just are events and we're going to face this challenge, this pain point and overcome it. When someone doesn't see life that way and they see it as negative and the world's out to get them and you don't have a victim mentality, but they have a victim mentality, how do you get someone through that victim mentality?
So it's all about rewiring the brain, reframing. And I have a really, I'll share with you in the audience, I have a kind of funny way of having people reframe and rewire their brain and the way the activity goes. I tell them to put a rubber band around their wrist.
See if I got one. Oh,
just like a rubber band, right?
I got one.
And every time you have that negative thought, I want you to flick the rubber band.
Oh, that's good. Negative reinforcement.
Well, but then change the thought to something positive.
Right.
So this day is going to suck because I have 12 meetings and I have no time to breathe. Flick. But I'm really grateful. I get to go to the office. I get to see people I enjoy working with, and I get to win this meeting, that meeting. I get to, whatever it is to reframe in that way. There's always a way to reframe.
You said the most powerful phrase I've seen in a book recently. Instead of saying, I have to do this, you said it like 3 times. I get to do this. That is a great reframe that people can incorporate in their lives.
You flicked yourself, right? And then you teach yourself. No.
And it still stings, by the way. I did it once.
So that's one of my tricks.
That's
and when someone does that for a week until they see me again, they're like, I get it, and it's sometimes a really good trick to just get your brain to go, hold on, stop for a second, come back to center. That is not the way I'm going to look at this.
Power of context is so powerful, right? And you shift it. Yep. Great job.
So then we get to a place of T, which is through. Through is sitting in your discomfort. So getting those feelings that maybe you don't like so much, where
you're say sitting in your discomfort?
Sitting in your discomfort.
Okay.
So I'm trying to control. I don't want to control. I don't like the way this feels. And I can't do all this at once. It's overwhelming. Annie wants me to make all these changes, right? It's sitting in it and going, that's okay. It's okay to be right here where you are. You are making progress because you're evolving. I commend all of my clients for coming to me. That's the first step. That's already a win. So sitting in it. Because a lot of people, Robin, what they do is they go, I don't like the way this feels. And they go to an escapism. Mm-hmm. I'm going to drink. I'm going to do drugs. I'm going to party. I'm going to play video games, whatever it is, to numb that uncomfortable feeling. Because society teaches us, and we're brought up to, if you're hurting, you got to do something to stop, take a pill, do that. You can't ever just sit in it.
So how do you get your clients through those moments when they want to medicate in an unhealthy way?
I think journaling and then reflecting on the journaling with me is really important. Journaling exercises, which I give out, certain exercises. I want you to, here's a prompt. I want you to write on this for 15 minutes each day. until you see me again. I think that can really get some of those. And what I'm teaching you right now and teaching the audience, like I'm teaching them, like, this is how we get to this place. This is how we get through. You're not going to like the way this feels, but it's okay. We will get through it. And when they have a partner in this, it's a lot different than doing it on your own.
Oh yeah. Accountability partners are immensely critical for success in anything we're doing. I call them the loving critics.
Right? So then we get to H, which is healing. And there's a reason, Robin, that it's not healed. It's heal or healing, because it's a constant evolving. I don't believe that we're ever healed. I believe I've done a crap ton of healing in my life for myself, but I'm not healed. None of us is healed. It's a constant learning, evolving, becoming the best version of me, becoming the better version of me. So when you get to this heal place, you're in a place of wholeness, oneness, freedom, peace, fulfillment. And that's by doing the previous work that I've just talked about with you. So it's by going on this journey and going through the work that you will find this place of wholeness. Believe me, I've done it. And I have many successes with past clients. So I can tell you it's possible for anyone if you do the work.
Roughly about how long does it take the average person? And granted, I know you probably have a huge range of people that are really into it. They're ready. They've totally let go. I need Annie to fix my life and I'll do whatever she says. And then you have the hostages that come kicking and screaming, maybe dragged by someone else. So they're on the other extreme.
Yeah.
About how long does it take for someone to start reaching some healing, do you think?
Well, there's two different questions. So how long does it take to make impact? 3 sessions. I'll make impact in 3 sessions and we'll start to make some changes. 6 months, I would say, is the average to get to a real place of wholeness where you can say, okay,
new muscle.
I see real differences here. Now, a lot of people extend because they want to keep going, but I'm not in the market to have clients for 10 years. I don't want that. I want to get them and give them the tools that they need to move on. I'm not looking to continue to collect money and time and energy from people. I want to give them the tools they need to be healing constantly and becoming the better version of themselves. Now, I've also had people take a break and come back because there's another obstacle they want to work through with me.
Sure.
So, I do 3 and 6 month programs.
Nice. So I want to go back, if we could, for a second, because I only hit the 2 of your core values. What were your other core values again after freedom?
So love, freedom, perseverance, trust, and truth.
Trust and truth. So perseverance. So let's talk about perseverance for a second. Where did perseverance come from?
Perseverance comes from a long line of, well, it comes from my dad. My dad has taught me about hard work, diligence, dedication, perseverance, and that everything takes hard work. Nothing is handed to you on a silver platter. If you want to do well, if you want to succeed, I've created this business from scratch, from nothing, right? Like, it's becoming successful and is successful because of my hard work, but I have to continue to persevere. I'm going to have down days. I'm going to have up days, but perseverance is in every aspect, both business, personal relationships, being a parent, all kinds of ways. Perseverance has its place in your life.
So what does Annie do when Annie has a down day?
Oh, I journal, work out, talk to the right people in my life that are really good support systems. So leaning into, which was not always easy for me, but leaning into support and help. Right. Into wise people that have been through them. And also I have to remember, like, I have mantras, like, do something different. You can get yourself out of a bad day. It doesn't have to stay with you.
Oh yeah, I know. I was just curious what yours were. I was curious. You said mantras. Did you happen to have a mantra? Do something different was a big one for me when I was in a dark place in my life. Whereas, like, I taught myself, do something different. And I just told myself the words and said, this time I'm not going to lay here and wallow in my sadness. I'm going to get up and do A, B, or C. I'm going to do it different. And it just, I don't know, it tweaked something in my brain. There's 2 other things. There's a favorite quote I have that is, if you want to be a slave, harbor your resentments. Oh, that's an anonymous quote, but it's one of my favorite quotes of all time. Right. And then the other one is, what's that? Resentment is so horrible. It's the worst emotion in the world. Yeah. It will bring you down. It really will. And it will make you a slave to it. Yeah. Yep. The other one is that I just heard the other day is let go or be dragged down. Right.
which
Yep.
which
Nice.
reminds me of like, you're holding on to the back of a car, it's dragging you, you got to let go, or it's going to continue to drag you. So there's times when you have to, like we were talking about earlier, relinquish that control and let go. And that's not condoning behavior necessarily. That might just be, you know what, it's time to let this go. This doesn't need to be part of my world. So those are some of my themes.
The other core value you mentioned was trust. When was the first time you actually consciously remember trusting yourself?
Consciously remember trusting myself. When I got the tattoo.
That's good.
When I got my first tattoo, I said, you know what? This breath means everything to me, and I'm not going to worry about what anybody thinks. And I'm not going to worry about, okay, so I was a little scared for my dad to find out for a while, but he knows now. But, I'm going to be authentically me, and I want this on my body forever. That's how important this word is to me. So I trusted myself then.
You built your entire life around it. And what was the last core value?
Truth.
What's truth to you? It's on
That's
the other
what
side.
it says in Hebrew.
Nice.
So that's on the other wrist. What is truth to me? Truth is everything. When you can live into your truth of who you are, then life is free. So each of these values is of mine is woven into one another, I should say. They're all linked. When you find your truth, you can really feel love in your heart. You can really be free. You get to persevere in your truest, most authentic way. And you can really trust someone when you're in your truth and trust yourself. So they're all linked. So that's what truth is to me.
Awesome. Annie, what are maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 things people could start doing now in their own lives to start their journey to doing all these amazing things, to start living their own authentic life full of truth?
I would suggest looking into coaching, because it's really a phenomenal way to get jump started when it's very hard to jumpstart yourself. But let's say that's not on your radar right at this moment. Journaling is huge. Don't make yourself crazy and try to sit and journal for an hour. Just 10 minutes a day, just free write.
Yeah. And help people out with this one, especially, I'm a guy, I was not a journal guy, and I developed my own methodology. What suggestions do you have for someone that probably needs a journal, but doesn't want a journal because they're overwhelmed? Like you just said, what's one thing they should maybe start writing about that only takes a couple minutes, you think, that would help them out?
My theory, Robin, is, and I have a lot of clients like that, especially men that don't want to journal. They're like, this isn't going to work for me. I've given them prompts, but the other thing I say is, it doesn't matter if you're journaling about chicken fingers or about your soul. Just write. When the pressure is taken off of them, because I think what some of that fear around that is, what am I going to write? I'm going to do it wrong. What am I going to say? What's going to come out of me? Just relinquish control and write what's on your mind. Even if it's about baseball from last night, even if it's about your dinner, just write. If you can do that, that's the first step, in my opinion.
Yep. And even if you create a habit for yourself of only saying 2 minutes, just something for 2 minutes.
And another thing, Robin, one thing I say that 90% of people will listen to is, don't type it, write it.
Right.
There's something different about writing. It's the brain to the hand to the paper that is not the same as typing it. So if you are willing, get a journal, a new one and a nice pen that you like, and just write for a few minutes, and you will be very surprised what will come out.
Probably slows you down a little bit too, which makes you a little more thoughtful about, right? And when you're talking about a lot of those things, I was thinking about Eckhart Tolle and the power of now as well, being very present, which is really critical when overcoming a lot of things in life and not projecting negativity ahead of yourself. So yeah.
And it's hard. It's hard to be present. Yeah. Most people are not. So that journaling will bring you to the present moment, even if it's just for a few minutes a day, and it's life-changing.
Absolutely. Annie, what's something that you wanted to share that I was horrible and neglected to ask you about?
You asked such good questions. I don't have anything that I wanted to share. Just follow me on LinkedIn, go to my website if you want to reach out.
And that's my last one is, Annie, where can people find out more about you and follow you and do all the excellent things and become part of your life?
So Annie Leib,
and spell it for folks.
What's this? Leib.
Right.
Everyone spells it wrong. I'm like, why did I keep my maiden name? So Annie Leib, and it's annieleib.com. And also Annie Leib is on LinkedIn, and I am very easy to reach.
Yep.
You can just shoot me a message. I'm happy to have a conversation with you and talk more about what Robin and I talked about today. But you asked such phenomenal questions, hard ones that almost stumped me, but it's okay. We got through it.
Nah, I knew they would stump you. You're so self-aware, nothing would stump you. You're great. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing with everyone, Annie. And everyone, everything will be in the show notes. I'm excited to share her episode. And as she said, just reach out, touch, and become part of each other's life and share the love. Thanks a lot, Annie.
Robin. See ya.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Forged by Trust. If you enjoyed the show, took away a few new tools, I hope you'll click like and leave a great review of the show to show your support. If you're interested in more information about how I can help you forge your own trust-building communication and interpersonal strategies for yourself or your organization, please visit my website at www.peopleformula.com. I'm looking forward to sharing my next Forged by Trust episode with you next week when we chat with the insightful Philip Baum about striving for common sense when observing the world around us.